Hello and welcome to episode 61 of the Made by Mumino podcast. My name is Catherine and this is a mostly knitting podcast, although I do sometimes delve into other fibery crafts, but today is all about knitting. So a really warm welcome to you if you're new here and a huge welcome back if you've been here before. As usual, I'm filming from Mönchengladbach in Germany, which is kind of halfway between the Dutch border and Düsseldorf, so that kind of area. I live permanently here with my partner, although I'm originally from Wales in the UK. So yes, I always put chapters in, so if there are any parts that you're not interested in, feel free to skip through. I also link everything down below that I talk about, and my social media is down there as well, so Instagram, Ravelry, that kind of thing. Today I've got lots of nice things to show you. There are some yarny purchases. There's a tour of a local to me yarn dyer in Düsseldorf at the end, where I met the lovely Elenor Mortensen as well, which was really fun. That's Bohei Yarn at the end. I've also got half a finished object to show you, and some progress on a couple of test knits that I'm doing at the moment, one of which is for Elenor Mortensen and the other is for the Knitting Hobbit. So yes, there's lots to talk about today. Also a little update on the Thrifty MAL. All the details for the MAL that's running over the summer are down below, but the theme is thriftiness, so spending as little money as possible on any craft that you like. Anything you want, don't mind. This also includes adapting already finished objects that you don't wear very often. So maybe you want to lengthen the sleeves on a cardigan or steek a jumper that doesn't fit you anymore, or whatever you want. Finish off an embroidery project that you've had for years. They would all absolutely qualify, and you can enter in the Ravelry group, which is linked below, on Instagram by tagging me and using the hashtag MBM Thrifty MAL 26, or via email, whichever works for you. And there will be 3 lovely prize bundles, and so far in the prize bundles we've got 3 beautiful project bags that I showed you last week that my mum made from Liberty Tana Lawn fabric. They are absolutely gorgeous. But also Nancy Wheeler of the Knit Sip Happy podcast, I'll link that down below as well. She's very kindly reached out and offered some of her patterns. She's a prolific sock designer and she makes some really beautiful sock patterns. I've made quite a few of them over the years. But she's really kindly offered some patterns to the winners, which was really nice of her. So thank you so much for that, Nancy. I really appreciate it. If you haven't seen her podcast, do go and check it out, because it's like having, a coffee with your friend for half an hour or so whilst you're listening to her. She's an absolute joy, and to be honest, one of the big inspirations for me starting this podcast as well. So do go and check her out if you haven't seen her podcast. So today I'm wearing the Cloud Tee. This was a test knit I did for JC of Fibre and Pine a few years ago. And it, as you can see, it's a nice, oversized, comfortable raglan tee. It's got some nice details, including little folded hems and also a split hem on the bottom ribbing. Is it ribbing? No, it's folded as well. I'll put up a little video here of me modelling it for you. So I knit this in Knitting for Olive merino cotton, which is perfect for this weather. So it's probably going to be about 35 degrees centigrade again today. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. It's just hot. And I find this perfectly comfortable to wear for normal tasks. As long as nobody asks me to help them move house, this is absolutely fine. This is a really comfortable, nice raglan tee to wear. And I picked up some yarn, which I'll show you at the end, which is a linen merino blend, and I'm kind of tempted to make another one of these, to be honest, so I'll see how I feel at the time. Yes, I made this in the 2XL size, and it has grown a bit since I've made it, but that's not a bad thing, to be honest. I think it's just a combination of being worn, and when it was blocked, the yarn has just stretched out a little bit. It's not the most size inclusive pattern. It goes up to 55 inches on the bust circumference, which is I think 140 centimetres bust. So yeah, not the most size inclusive, but as it's a raglan, you could keep knitting it until it's the size that you want, but then you'd end up with very deep armholes, which I'm not sure that everybody would want. If you do want to adapt to raglan and you don't want those deep armholes, what you can do is knit the raglan to where you want it and then just do plain knitting until you're happy with it, or do more plain knitting rows in between your raglan increases, so maybe 2 plain rows in between every raglan increase, just to get that yoke depth without having deep armholes, if that's not what you want. I knit this to pattern using 3.5mm needles, and it was just a really simple knit, and definitely one that I really do wear quite a lot in the summer, so I would be very tempted to make another one, to be honest. I promised you half a finished object, and here it is. We have a lovely big sock. This is an EU 48, and I'm not sure what that is in US or UK sizes. Let's just say it's a large sock. I'm knitting these for a friend. It's his birthday soon, and I've got a little tradition of making him and his wife socks every year for their birthdays, and this is half a finished object. And last time I couldn't find the ball band for it, I found it. So this is just a Lana Grossa yarn. To be honest, you can't really go wrong with this. It's 75% wool, 25% polyamide, 100 grams is 420 meters. Although I did have conniptions with this because there was a manufacturer's knot just after I finished this foot, so I had to wind off quite a lot before I got to that same point, before I started the next one. I've got the next one here. So it did waste a little bit of yarn, unfortunately, because I do like to make them matchy-matchy. Oh, that's pretty close. Pretty close. So, yep, these are an all-over 2x2 rib, apart from underneath the foot. To make life easier for myself, I actually finished with the main colour a little bit early and started with the toe colour, the contrast colour, just so that I didn't have to waste so much yarn when I was then finding the next starting point. But then, of course, I found a manufacturer's knot and it was out of order, but never mind, these things happen. So these are a 72 stitch cast on. I'm using 2.25mm needles, which is a US one. I've done a heel flap and gusset and a normal rounded toe. So these have been taking me a bit longer than usual, just because I haven't been out and about so much as I would be recently with the opportunity to knit. So hopefully I'll get these finished by the beginning of July, which is when his birthday is, but we shall see. But I do love this colourway. It's really, really fun. And the contrast colour that I've used is Filcolana Arvetta. And I find this lovely for doing contrast because it's very, very soft. So even if the main yarn that you're using isn't the softest, those sort of pressure points when somebody's wearing it, that they do stay nice and soft. Yeah, I'm very happy with those. They're turning out nicely. And as you can see, I'm almost to where I need to be for the heel flap and gusset. So hopefully I can start that later on this week and get those finished. Okay, I have some progress to show you on my Wildflower Tee. This is a test knit that I'm doing for Elenor Mortensen, and when you saw it in the last episode, I'd just done that really pretty little cast on with a little lacy neck there, and I'd done maybe 1 or 2 rows of the to start the yoke. But as you can see, I've been working really hard on this. The deadline is, I think, the 16th of July, so this one's my priority at the moment. But I've done this beautiful yoke, and I've split for sleeves, and I've done, what is that, about 12 centimetres, I think, on the body there. So for the size that I'm making, I need to knit, I think, about 23 centimetres for the body before I start doing another little bit of colour work. If I put a picture up here so that you can see it. I'm making the 5th out of 9 sizes, which will end up with a bust circumference of about 125 centimetres. So that should give me about 7 or 8 centimetres positive ease, because I tend to, when I'm knitting colour work, I tend to be a bit looser than when I'm doing just normal stockinette. So my gauge swatch was in stockinette, and that it was on gauge for the pattern. So what I really should do when I'm doing the any colour work is go down a needle size, but to be quite honest, I don't mind if it's got a little bit extra fabric in it. But yes, the finished bust circumference of the sweaters run from where is it, 93 centimetres to 142 centimetres, which is about 36.5 inches to 63 inches. So it's a size inclusive pattern, and it's got this beautiful stranded colour work. Now there's 2 charts for this, and you can mix and match them in any way you want. Some of the testers have stuck with 1 chart and done it all the way around. I've just alternated the charts. So I've done chart 1, chart 2, all the way around. And I'm very happy with it. I think it's very, very pretty. I'm using the recommended needles of, I think it's 3.5. Yes, it is. It's a 3.5mm needle for the main body. I turn this inside out very carefully. Can I show you my floats? Yes, I can. So here's my floats. There are a couple of, there's a bit of, doesn't matter. There are a couple of longer floats in here where I've had to pick them up as I go around. I mean, it's totally up to you what you want to do. When I'm gift knitting, I tend to pick up my floats more often than when I'm knitting for myself. And when I'm knitting with something really sticky like mohair or non-superwash yarn, to be honest, I probably don't really pick up my floats as long as they're shorter than about, 10, 12 stitches, something like that. And sometimes I wouldn't even bother then. As you can see, I've got some very long floats here, but as it's for myself, I'm not really bothered, to be honest. But the yarn that I'm using, where is my yarn? It's here. It's a UK dyer, the Knitting Shed, and this is their own brand of yarn, Ainsworth. Turn that around, yeah. Ainsworth and Prynne. And this is a superwash merino linen blend, and as I talked about in the last couple of episodes, I am an absolute sucker for anything with a linen blend. I love those little flecks that you get in it. But this is called Fool's Gold, and it's 100 grams is 366 meters, and it's got 90% superwash merino, 10% linen, and it's just, love that so much. I suppose as it's a superwash, maybe I should pick up my floats a little bit more often, just because it's not going to sort of smush and felt together on the back in the same way that it would for a woolly wool. But to be honest, I think it's going to be fine. I've not bothered in the past and I've been happy with it. So yes, I'm using that colour, and my contrast was a little bit of leftover yarn that my mum had from another project. And it's the same yarn, but in the colourway Coffee Bean. And I've got a tiny nugget left from 56 grams after doing the yoke. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be enough to do those extra little rows down at the bottom in the colour work. If not, I've got something really, really similar. So I'll just, I'll make it work. It's fine. But I'm pretty sure I'll have enough left. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with this. The pattern's going to be released probably the end of July, as the deadline for this test knit is the 16th of July, so I imagine it'll be sometime at the end of July. But yes, I am thrilled with this. I do love a colour work yoke. I'm a bit of a sucker for it. It is a little bit warmer because you've got that double layer, so for a summer tee it does make it that tiny bit warmer, but to be honest, as it's going to have plenty of positive ease, I think it'll be fine to wear apart from on the very hottest of days. So yeah, I'm just wondering how long to do the sleeves. This for me is a really nice length to wear. So when I'm sort of waving my arms around and things, I don't sort of flap my bingo wings too much. But let them flap maybe, I don't know. So I might go with a slightly shorter sleeve. I'll see how I feel after I do a little try on for the body, and yeah, see how that goes. The next thing to show you is a really small amount of progress on my Mirkwood Pullover, which is this absolutely delightful all over lace. As you can see, the body has grown a little bit, not much. I've been focusing mainly on my other test knit because this one's got a longer deadline. I think this one is sometime in the middle of August. So I want to get the other one finished first, and then I will focus on this one. Yeah, all over lace. You start with the back, pick up the shoulders, knit down, and as you can see, I've joined in the round for the body, and I don't think I've done that much since I last showed it to you, so I won't spend too much time talking about this. Just to say that I'm really enjoying it. It's a very memorable lace pattern. I'm not having to refer to the chart or anything whilst I'm knitting it. And I think this would work really, really well in a double strand of mohair, in a sort of a fingering weight to more of a DK. So I think this is going to be a really, really versatile pattern. I'm planning on wearing this in the summer over vest tops and things like that, because it is going to be see-through, obviously, because it's that lace, and it's also got quite an open gauge. So I got gauge with 5mm needles, which is, what is that? It's a US 8. So it is quite an open gauge. But to be honest, I think that's going to be lovely for sort of cooler summer evenings going into the autumn and so on. As I've shown you before, I'm using beautiful yarn, Halo, from Nellie and Eve, which is a sort of a brushed British wool, which gives it a slightly sort of mohair floofy look. But yeah, it's really beautiful, and this colour is called Duck Egg. I'm pretty sure Nellie and Eve, Helen had an update a couple of weeks ago, so there might be some in her shop now, but it is not the softest of yarns. It is a non-superwash British yarn, but to be honest, I don't really have any intolerance to wool. A slight intolerance to alpaca, irritatingly, quite literally. But yeah, I really, really love this yarn, and I've got 5 skeins of it all together, and I think I've only used 2, or did I get 6 skeins? Do you know what? I'm not sure. I'd have to check back, but I'm pretty sure I've only used 1 and a bit skeins so far, so it's going really far because of the gauge, I think. But yes, that's my Mirkwood. Sorry for the clicky clacky needles. Yeah, that's my Mirkwood, and I'm thoroughly enjoying working on that. And once I've got that other test knit finished, I will definitely be picking that up. I haven't been working on any other projects, so in sort of temporary hibernation are my Riggies cardigan, purely because I've got those 2 test knits on the go at the moment, but I fully intend to get that back out again when these are out off the needles. What else? Also my low tide pullover, that's kind of gone into hibernation purely because I don't think I'm going to be wearing it anytime soon, so I'll pick that up again maybe in a few weeks' time, or when the weather starts cooling down a little bit. So I don't have any other projects to show you today, but I do have some beautiful yarn. So I went, as I said, to Bohei Yarns in Düsseldorf, and they had an open weekend, and it was absolutely lovely. There was cake, there was coffee, there were lots of like-minded yarny people, and I had an absolutely wonderful time. The owner, Elka, and her husband live there. She's the genius behind the yarn. Lots of beautiful bases, a really nice variety. Most of the yarn that she sells there is her own dyed yarn, but she does sell some other ones as well, some local yarns, also some John Arbon. And it was such a treat to go and have a look around and squish lots of yarny goodness. But also she has a close partnership with Elenor Mortensen. And Elenor was there, she had all of her samples with her, and it was the first time I'd met her in person, even though I've done quite a few test knits for her in the past. And it was really nice to actually finally meet in person, and she was just so lovely, very kind, and very chatty, and had some suggestions and things. So yeah, it was an absolute pleasure to meet her in person. But I did pick up some yarn while I was there. Of course I picked up some yarn. It would be rude not to, wouldn't it? So I picked this up. And if you've been here for a while, you know that this is my wheelhouse, this kind of colourway. This was dyed by Elka of Bohei Yarns. And it's called Tralafiti, which I think kind of means, it's kind of slang for ridiculous in German. And it is 90% merino and 10% linen. So the same mix that I'm using for my test knit at the moment. And there's the picture on the label. Both her and her husband, Elka and her husband, the yarn dyer, they're both really artistic, and he's a sculptor, and in their garden, as you'll see in the tour at the end, there's lots of his metal sculptures all over the place, and lots of them have some sort of movement to them, and it was just a lovely, peaceful place to wander around. Anyway, I've got 3 skeins of this. I also picked up this because I use this kind of blend quite a lot in the summer, and I thought this is a nice neutral colour that I can use for all sorts of finishing off or bits of colour work or whatever. Not necessarily with this, although that would work, but I think that I might make some sort of plain raglan tee, or maybe even something with a little bit of lace in it with this, and I think this might jump on my needles quite soon, if I'm honest. So yeah, watch this space. Normally when I use a variegated yarn, I don't bother to helically knit or, you know, blend the different skeins in, because I don't mind if there's a bit of pooling. I like to let the yarn do what it does. But to be honest, if I'm doing a plain knit in this, if it's just a raglan, I think I might do a little bit of helical knitting, but see how lazy I'm feeling. If you've not tried it before, helical knitting is a really good way of blending in those different skeins to make sure that you don't get any marked changes between those skeins as you're moving down your project. I'll try and find a tutorial about how to do it, and I'll link it down below if you're interested. But yes, 3 skeins of that lovely goodness, and another one of a neutral contrasty type one that I can put with all of my other ends of linen blend yarn. So yes, that's it to talk about today. I'm filming very, very early in the morning because it's going to be hot here, so I'm glad I've managed to finish by 8:30, so I've not done too badly. So yes, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with me. I really appreciate it. And if you fancy it, there's a tour of that yarn shop that I was telling you about at the end. And I hope you enjoy a lovely wander around with me to squish some yarn, and then a peaceful wander in the garden afterwards. So happy knitting and have a lovely week. Take care. Bye.